television highlights of the news of yesteryear.
It's May 9th, 1926, and Navy Commander Richard Evelyn Byrd is about to join pilot Floyd Bennett on an historic journey. In giant Fokker, they head for first flight over top of the world. Point of takeoff, icy wastes of Arctic. Destination, North Pole and return. With ice floes far below, Byrd takes old-fashioned sextant reading to chart his course. And here are first motion pictures of the pole, as taken during Byrd's bold flight in 1926. First part of mission accomplished, second half of flight is successful, as Byrd and Bennett get warm welcome back to base. Then, back in New York, Byrd marches in triumphal parade with pilot Floyd Bennett in civvies beside him. Explorer's mother joins notables in honoring America's hero. And here's rare picture of the commander's charming wife. Then in Richmond, Virginia, he's greeted by his equally famous brother, as whole city turns out to pay homage to a hometown boy who made good. This is when Harry Byrd is governor of Virginia, 6 years before he's considered for presidency, 7 years before he becomes outstanding member of U.S. Senate. It's time of Commander Byrd's invention of self-inflating rubber raft, which saved lives of thousands in the undreamed-of war to come. With flyers Noville and Acosta, Byrd shows raft's capacity, and with plane builder Anthony Fokker, inspects historic ship America. Injury is from recent crack-up. It is 1927, and here he readies himself for second try at ocean hop. With him are Bernd Balken, Noville, and Acosta, who'll join him on the flight. Lindbergh did it just 5 weeks ago, and now the Pole Conqueror's heavily laden plane is going to take a stab at it. First attempt ended in near disaster as plane nosed over on ground. But this time, crack-up is in surf off coast of France. Flyers had to swim to shore, and plane is nearly picked apart by souvenir hunters. But Byrd and his buddies have made perilous Atlantic hop, and back home, youth named Lindbergh welcomes him as brother conqueror of what is then considered flying's most epic flight. In 1927, Lindbergh and Byrd are aviation's greatest names. Then in 1928, Byrd is given mascot for expedition to Antarctic and assault on world's southern pole. It's smooth sailing to Ross Barrier, then plane takes him across world's southernmost continent in dangerous flight to pole. This is November 29th, 1929, and here is the South Pole as it looked on that thrilling day. Back in America, Herbert Hoover congratulates members of expedition as Byrd, now promoted to Rear Admiral, gives the president their names. And in the years ahead, Byrd is to make 2 more Antarctic trips, still later serve his country in a world at war. In Senate Office Building, Washington, D.C., it's 21st of July, 1917, as blindfolded Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, draws number in National Draft for Army of First World War. First number drawn is 258, and first men drafted into AEF are tagged for trip to camp. Billboard in background advertises Norma Talmadge in current movie. Winter comes and draftees still march to camp. There's merriment and horseplay along the way, for over here in 17, war seemed like a lark. But war it is just the same, and pretty soon draftees are at the gates of camps and in the Army now. Still wearing civvies, soldiers of 17 are drilled.
and looks here as if some wives have come along. Point of embarkation, 1917. Heading for the Argonne, Belleau Wood, Chateau Thierry, and the Marne, troops of World War I set sail for France and 2 years in the trenches. But you wouldn't know there was war ahead for this detachment of doughboys, though in Washington, our chief executive is telling them that they must save the world for democracy. It's 23 years later that Secretary of War Stimson draws number 158 in nation's first peacetime draft. It's October 29, 1940, as American youth is drafted for service before threat of World War II. And this time, war seems serious matter to men heading for uniform. Europe is already in flames as Americans by thousands go through induction centers in every city in the land. War regalia is put on solemnly. Now preparing for battle, already sense the horror ahead at Guam, Attu, Salerno, Normandy, Brittany, Metz, and the final dread explosion and perilous plume that was to follow the dreadful atom bomb.
Here's Fiorello Henry LaGuardia in 1930, 4 years before he became unforgettable mayor of New York. Congressman in 1917, he resigned to command U.S. Air Force on Italian-Austrian front in First World War. Is here again congressman from 20th District of New York. Then comes Fusion Party and fame.
Actress Dorothy Dalton in 1920 set sail on vacation from stage. Her first theater appearance was in Holyoke, Massachusetts, September 5th, 1910. In 1914, she went to Hollywood. 5 years later, she was back on Broadway, greater star than ever.
Humanitarian, author, warden, here's Louis E. Laws in 1930s. Just about time head of New York State's most famous penal institution was being hailed as author of 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. Laws started as warden at Sing Sing in 1905, served 21 years. It's 1928, and in California's Sierra Madre Mountains, scores of foresters and civilian volunteers fight fire that is destined to destroy 10,000 acres of forest land. Raging inferno threatens to get out of hand with aid of shifting winds and extended dry spell, which has rendered forest ready fuel. Warnings are out to evacuate all village and country homes in surrounding area. And here are last evacuees getting through on very lip of fiery forest.
It's September 25th, 1930, and at St. James Church in Philadelphia, 24-year-old Mary Altimus is about to become the bride of John Hay Whitney, Jr. Notice what the really well-dressed women were wearing in 1930. That's mother of the bride wearing dazzling rope of pearls. In wide-brimmed hat, two-piece ensemble, here's Mrs. Harry Payne Whitney. Mr. and Mrs. Stotesbury are here. Again notice the rope of pearls. And here comes the bride. She wears a train long enough to be worthy of the Santa Fe. Here's Robert Benchley, best man, with the groom. And among ushers is Fred Astaire. They promised to love and cherish and said, "I do." The 1930 wedding of the Whitneys is over, and they'll honeymoon at his Virginia estate.
Airlift 1919 Variety. It's July 27, 1919, as two women book passage with Aero Limited, $100 a ticket, as flights between New York and Atlantic City are begun. Airline operators are just back from World War I, and air taxi business is brand new thing. The There's no such luxury as commercial aviation or regularly scheduled flights. These are many years away as these two pioneering women are away to Atlantic City in flimsy-looking amphibian with pusher-type engine. On 78-minute flight, average speed was 80 miles an hour.
If you counted cloche hats instead of dollars, you'd get rich at this Westchester party in the early 1920s. Purpose of social gathering is to raise a $50,000 hospital fund. A lot of money in those days. In bobbed hair and silk print, here's Ollie Irwin, popular debutante of her day. Manager of festivities, Mrs. Marion Wilson, wears a crew neck dress. Hostesses who scored biggest hit are the Robin Hood girls. And here a hired hand does a shuffle step so popular at the time. Making like the inhabitants of Sherwood Forest they represent, Robin Hood girls aren't good archers, but gathering raised the $50,000 just the same.
Setting swimming record. Greasing up at 158th Street, New York, June 19, 1927, 13-year-old Zeitenfeld twins hop into Hudson for fast lap of Albany to New York marathon. Record of slightly more than 57 hours has stood almost a year as Zeitenfeld sisters overarm it toward the battery and end of lengthy swim. When pulled out of river, they've beaten Mark nearly 5 hours. And how they love being champs.